Thanks, man.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again for attending ControlsCon. It's great to see everyone. I know we saw a few of you at the summit a couple weeks ago, and so if you were there, you get to see the greatest hits on stage here, because it's going to be pretty close to that, with a couple of changes. Of course, one thing that I'm uniquely aware of is how close we are to launch. So I'll ensure that I don't block you from that. Of course, if you have any questions about what we're presenting today, Vicon booth is right there. We've got a group of sellers, we've got account reps, we've got product managers that are ready to assist with any question that you might have. So my name is Stephen Holicky. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Tridium. And prior to joining Tridium 5 years ago, I was an SI, like you guys. So I was working for a firm out of Chicago, and we were doing every bit of retrofit, recommissioning, design spec, you name it. And at the heart of what we did was specifying the use of Niagara. And the reason why is because, similar to many of the people that presented today, we realized the power that it brings. And we realized the enablement, to keep to that central theme, that it ensures. And so, as we go forward, I think one thing I want you to kind of realize is that you have seen a consistent message from all the speakers today. And I think those themes are what's driving our direction. And when we talk about the state of the built environment, there's been plenty of discussions about, well, we've got a lot of commercial loans that are going to be coming due here shortly. We don't know what building owners are going to do. Are they just going to give them back to the banks? And then what does that do to all these retrofit opportunities that we have? Well, logic would state that you would, or reason rather, that you would see these opportunities start to slow down. But that's not the case. That's not the case. Because in the past year, the non-residential construction industry has added over 258,000 jobs. So if indeed we are facing a slowdown, then how do we explain that? And the same follows. March had a historical increase, but we followed suit with April as well. So the Department of Labor, as they routinely do, provides statistics on the number of jobs added per vertical, per region, per industry. And non-residential construction continues to grow month over month. And so the state of the built environment is strong, it's resilient. And it's something I think you are able to leverage today. And of course, it empowers your business. So a couple other things that are driving our landscape: the rapid digitization and artificial intelligence. Jim Young did a great job of really canvassing the entire topic, of giving you some use cases, examples. But the thing is I really want to reinforce that this age of artificial intelligence, it's right now. And from a Tridium perspective, we are committed to ensuring putting the right features, the right value into the product for you all to be able to really take advantage of it. Because we don't want to get left behind. We want to be as proactive, as forward-thinking as possible. And I think you've heard it, whether it be from Ken Sinclair, from Bill Schweibel. These trends are emerging at a rapid pace. And so it is extremely paramount that we provide the right capabilities within the product to be able to get you guys to take advantage of them. So, another thing that's driving it, decarbonization and electrification, the connected power product that Sarah just reviewed, that all has integration with Niagara. And so that's one thing that we recognize that's occurring more and more, have to get down to that plug load control. And you think about the amount of energy consumption that you generate just from those. And given we know that the buildings are the energy hogs, this is going to be increasingly important. And so from a market driver, this is something that's really directing what we're doing. Now, I know it's more than just capabilities and functionality, it's also how you license it. And those are things that we've been listening to the market about. And as we continue to migrate the framework, as we continue to evolve our go-to-market, those are things that we're committed to ensuring we have the right pricing in place to support what you all do on a day-to-day. Of course, decarbonization, I think we've had a number of at least line items on slides about that. And so that, I think, speaks to itself. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time about that because our speakers have done an exceptional job at covering that. And even Heinz, I think, had a great segue about that as well. And so it doesn't matter where you find yourself within the world, these major market drivers are impacting your day-to-day. It doesn't matter if you participate in the industry or if you're an actual consumer of goods and technologies within that space, it still impacts you. But of course, all of these things, really, it doesn't matter if you do not have security baked into the core of your product. And so that is why our mantra is secure by default. What it does is it reflects our commitment to ensuring that we spend, from my perspective, of course, I want to see as many new features as possible, but you would probably be surprised at how much time we spend just on security items. Now, those aren't something that I can just put up on a slide and say, hey, look at all these great things we're doing for you all. Aren't you happy? We understand that it's way more than that. Because again, if you do not have a secure product, you don't have a product at all. Because the minute that you are compromised, it's over. I mean, think about it. Just today, the Wichita Police Department, victim of a ransomware attack. It's like every single week we're hearing about this. And as I just mentioned, the increasing digitization of our entire world, of the built environment. So as that happens, does that increase the surface area for a threat? I would say it does. And that's why when it comes to cybersecurity, we are committed to ensuring that we spend more hours than I would like to ensuring that this product is as robust as possible. Because again, these aren't things, glitz, glamour, no. It's at the heart of what we do. It's our foundation, and it's not something that we will compromise on. So, given these trends, given the market landscape, we understand that unparalleled flexibility is absolutely essential to ensuring we're all able to take advantage of these new trends, these drivers. But then also you have a product that you can turn to enable that. No matter where you find yourself in the construction process and the retrofit process, you have to have the flexibility within the product to be able to deploy it in the way that you need in order to meet the design spec, in order to reduce the amount of labor that you ordinarily would put into a job. And then a commitment to open. Jeannie brought this up. Can all these vendors integrate with code? Yes, we believe in it. In fact, it doesn't matter what that application is. We believe that you can turn to the Niagara framework to get you that data. We'll normalize it, we'll aggregate it into an independent data layer that can be extended in the product itself, or it can be in any cloud application that you wish. And as Andy said, our investment into the cloud is a clear indicator of that strategy. And we're not going to stop either. So as we get a little bit deeper into the discussion here in a few moments, I'll show you exactly what we're doing and how we are going to provide that in the days ahead. So data integrity. That's one thing that's extremely important, right? Because the age of artificial intelligence, really you can't get there without normalized, clean data. And so that data integrity, as we move ahead, is going to be so important for us to be able to achieve these outcomes and to be able to get to the point where Bill said, 5 years, we're going to have fully autonomous buildings. It has to start with the integrity of the data. If you don't have it, then these outcomes that we're trying to pitch here, it's just not going to work. And so that's why we are committed to ensuring that the platform always gives you the ability to trust that data. And then, as I mentioned, at the heart of it all is that old secure by default mantra. And that's not something that we will compromise. And at the heart of it all is the Niagara framework. So, Niagara 4.14 is coming soon. We are currently in beta right now. And if you haven't had the opportunity to try out 4.14, well, you still have an opportunity. Stop by the booth and let them know that you're interested, and we will get you signed up. We're hoping to get this out the door about probably the first week or two of July. So that's something that you can expect to see here and the weeks ahead. So from a 4.14 perspective, we've got a number of great things that we built into the product. So I'll start with the JACE 9000 because that's new for 4.13. And if you're wondering, when you tried out the JACE 9000 or the FX90 or the J9000 or the A9000 or the Han 9000, whatever you call it. You know, one thing that you realize is that, hey, were there a couple things that the Jace 8000 did that the 9000 didn't? I mean, yes. And the reason why is because we've been incrementally adding value to the Jace. We wanted to get it out the door, but with 414, we have completed the picture, or rather with 415 we will, but 414's gonna give you support. We do have 802.1x support now with the Jace 9000 and DHCP server support on that secondary NIC card. So if any of you out there have tried to use DHCP on the Jace 9000, you gotta use 414. So just to let you know. From a visualization perspective, we did have a Tridium talk this week, or rather last week. And I covered some of the new HTML5 views that we have available. And there are many of them. One thing that we did is we took the manager interface that you commonly use to bring in devices and points to the workbench. We've extended that all to to the browser and built it in HTML5. And the reason we did this, of course, is to provide you the flexibility on how you deploy and interact with the product. You don't always need the thick client. You can use the browser from time to time, and if you've got a IT department at a customer site that does not like you plugging your computer into their switches or onto their network, well, perfect. As long as they've got that workstation on that network, or rather a workstation on the network, you can just pull up the IP address of that device and get to programming. Now, another thing that we've done with 414 is work on certificates. So with 413, we brought the certificate manager to the browser, but with 414, we have introduced a certificate signing service. Now, if I remember the transition from AX to N4, more actually specifically when FOX-S or encrypted FOX communications were introduced, certificates were the bane of my existence. I begrudgingly accepted them, and I might have cursed the Tridium a few times too, saying, why in the hell are you making me do this? For what reason? But it's security at the end of the day, secure by default. That's something we can't compromise on, and the reason why is because if it's unencrypted, a nefarious actor can just get access to that wire, can figure out exactly what is going on within that data packet. If you're using backdate over IP, you can see every bit of information that you need. And so certificates is really that great feature that helps us encrypt those communications. And so what we've done with 414 is we've taken the headache out of the management of certificates. So you all have probably encountered a case whereby a certificate is expired and your customer's calling you and saying, why are these points showing as yellow? What's going on here? Get your ass out here, fix it. And you probably knew it then, you were like, certificate expired. That has been a common pain point. So what we did in 414 is we've created a mechanism to be able to automatically rotate those certificates such that you never have to hear one of those calls again from your customers about those points being yellow just because the certificate expired. Now how it works is you have a supervisor with Jaces underneath it. And within that supervisor station, it's going to host a certificate signing service. And all those Jaces, and of course speaking with the supervisor using FOX-S, whenever their certificate is about to expire, it'll say, hey, give me a new certificate. Or it serves up what we call a certificate signing request. And then that supervisor signs it using its certificate authority and then pushes it back to that subordinate station such that you never had to hear from the customer about the comms going down. It just works. And more importantly, it's secure. And so we've implemented that in Fox, but we've also done it in our web service as well. And then if you are accustomed to integrating with cloud endpoints using our MQTT driver, we've done the same thing with that against AWS endpoints. The reason we did this, again, is to remove that extra hit on your workflow. If you are still in the warranty period when that happens, you know you're paying for that trip out to the site. And that's one thing we want to eliminate. We want to ensure we've got the right capabilities into the product to empower your workflow, but also to ensure the security of that instance. Again, it's not something we're going to compromise on at all. Now, in addition to that, of course, keeping true to that security story, plenty of new authentication methods have been added as well. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about those, stop by the booth, or email tridiumbetatest@tridium.com, and we will get you started on a test of 414. Now, when we talk about data contextualization, ontologies, things like that, Haystack has been supported in the Niagara framework for many years. But with 414, we decided that we were going to implement support for Brick. So if you haven't got a chance to use Brick, which I think most of us really haven't because we've been so accustomed to seeing Haystack, but if you have had the opportunity to use it, you'll be pleased to know that we do have support in Niagara 414 for the Brick ontology. Now, it's been implemented as a tag dictionary, so it's going to be very similar to how you deploy a tag dictionary today. Drag and drop into your tag dictionary service, and then you're going to have some predefined tag rules that will actually map those classifications per that Brick standard. So, but Central Niagara too, remember, you can have multiple tag dictionaries that you install. So if you have one in place today, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen to that. You can add the Brick one if you want to be able to take advantage of some of those new asset classes and relationships that are reinforced through Brick. But Niagara 415 is coming. We're working on that as well. And so with 415, which is going to be coming in Q1 of next year, we have finally gotten to the point where we've got that feature parity with the JACE 8000. So the JACE 9000 will support Wi-Fi with version 415. Now, I know for the most part, if you're operating within tightly regulated environments, they might not want you using the Wi-Fi. And so in those events, you're probably ordering the non-Wi-Fi JACE, which is okay. But we're starting to see some industry movements heading back towards wireless. I think you've seen that today too. You've seen it through some of the product showcases and demonstrations by Sarah, for example, showing that wireless mesh technology that's integrating all of those connected power sockets into a Niagara station. And we're actually seeing now more customers say, hey, I want to use the JACE as an access point, so I don't have to plug in to the JACE to be able to do any configuration when I'm on site. And so that's going to be coming with version 415. Another thing that is coming with 415, I've been talking quite a lot about visualizations, moving things to HTML5, but we've got the PX editor coming with 415. So that's all going to move to the browser. And if you were like me, when you first started using Niagara, that was one of the most exciting things, because if you came from more of a mechanical background, you probably never got the opportunity to build out a web page. But Niagara really brought that experience forward. You take people that were used to installing condensers, pumps, working on air handlers, motors, and things like that, and the next thing you know, they're building out a web page that operators are utilizing to remotely control their equipment. And so that's going to be coming with version 415. Now, in addition to that, we've got, this was exciting, because I've spoken a lot about Fox, and if you know those IT departments, what's one thing they hate doing? They're like, you want to open port what? 4911, what? Why? Why do you need that? That doesn't make any sense. And from an IT perspective, you get it. Right? What they're trying to do is to ensure the security and stability of the network which they manage. And so when they see you asking to open up special ports from their perspective, they're going to question it. And I guarantee you every year they're going to review it and say, you know what, I want to close it. And I'm sure there's a couple of you that have been impacted by that, where the IT department just summarily just says, 4911, stop, close that port. Inbound, outbound, everything, doesn't matter. So what we've done with 415 is we are now wrapping that Fox traffic with a WebSocket. And so what that means for all of you is that no more 4911. So the WebSocket ensures that you can operate over port 443, which is your standard HTTPS port. So what that's going to do, again, that's one less haggle you have to do with the IT department. And then as we continue to evolve the framework moving forward, that's how we're going to wrap Fox traffic in the days ahead. And again, when you hear people say, Fox's proprietary protocol, again, we're using that that's been an essential part of the Niagara framework for many years, but what they always point to is the port, special ports. Again, we don't feel like you need to do that. That's one thing we want to remove from your workflow. We want to take that headache out of the picture. And again, going forward, that's going to ensure the stability of the product in the years ahead. 4.15 is going to be our next long-term support release. So keep that in mind. If you've been using version 4.10, and many have, and it's been on the market since March of 2021, 4.15 is going to replace that. So as soon as 4.15 gets released, 4.10's not going to be supported anymore, and then 4.15 will be our official long-term support release. We are committed to supporting version 4.15, I'd say through Q3 of 2028. So that's giving you a healthy runway there at the moment. When it gets released, it's going to give you over 3.5 years of support. Now, what we'll do is kind of similar to what we've been doing today with 4.10. Every 90 days or so, you're going to get an update. And the whole point of that is to ensure that when a customer scans that software, they produce a report that says, hey, these libraries are out of date. I see the Java version's got a couple vulnerabilities. Update it, please. The whole point of that 90-day cadence is to ensure that you've got a version you can turn to that does not have those vulnerabilities, that features the latest and up-to-date support libraries, so that you don't have to say, I can't do that right now. Rather, what you can say is, sure, yeah, there's a version available. And then when we talk about where we're taking the cloud here in a few minutes, you'll see why that's so important. So I'm going to take this opportunity to move on to the Niagara Cloud Suite, because I think this is a good segue. So if you haven't heard about the Niagara Cloud Suite in particular, it's something that we've been building on over the past 2 years or so, 2.5 years. And so in 2023, we introduced Niagara Data Service, and Niagara Recover followed in September, and of course, we just released Niagara Remote. So I'm going to use this opportunity to show you all a nice video about what we've done with the Niagara Cloud Suite before I show you where we're heading.
The way we use buildings is changing, and so are the businesses that support them. They both need to be more flexible, more agile, and better streamlined for success. With the all-new Niagara Cloud Suite, you can break free from on-prem limitations to remotely configure, recover, and analyze supported Niagara instances from across the portfolio, helping you reduce support costs, expand your service offerings, and unlock your creativity. Niagara Cloud Suite is made up of 3 offerings. Niagara Remote is a way to remotely access any supported Jace or Niagara Supervisor without a VPN or third-party services. Configure, troubleshoot, and look at trend data from anywhere to help reduce site visits, compare buildings, and streamline your operations. Niagara Recover enables cloud-based backups for supported Jace and Supervisor configurations without third-party solutions. You can store and access a set number of backups directly in the Niagara Cloud, managed by a team you trust, helping you implement a more stable, more secure recovery strategy. And finally, Niagara Data Service takes the guesswork out of managing building data. It allows for simple remote access to long-term historical trend data to help troubleshoot from anywhere. Data Service also collects, cleans, and stores data, helping building stakeholders implement their insights platform of choice and get the results they need. Niagara Cloud Suite prepares your business for the next era of streamlined, scalable, connected services. But the best part? Supported Jace and Supervisors already have what you need to get started. No additional hardware, software, or training needed. It's one more reason Niagara is the digital change engine for buildings.
That's right, folks. And if you have a Jace or Supervisor today that you want to try out Remote and Recover on, perfect. We've got a 90-day trial that you can use. Stop by our booth. Let Nicole, who's sitting over there, know that you're interested, and we will get you signed up. So let's talk about where we're taking the Niagara Cloud Suite, since you know what it does today. So Niagara Remote was just released in February. So this is something I think is going to pick up some momentum here in the months ahead. And again, what this does is it provides you the capability to log into a Niagara instance from anywhere, but more importantly, securely. I think, again, you've heard me say it a couple times, secure by default. It's something that we reinforced and ensured that we had in place with Niagara Remote. And so as we continue to expand the scope of offerings that support our Niagara Cloud Suite, you can expect to see this on many portability or many what we call third-party hardware that's actually running Niagara. So that includes things like the optimizer, it includes the edge. It includes, for example, perhaps even some things from JCI as well. You never know. Maybe a couple of things we have in store for that. And so that's one thing that you can expect in the days ahead, is that you're going to have this built-in remote connectivity capability that just comes with the product in general. Moving on to Niagara Recover. So again, that's going to provide you insurance for that Niagara station. It's going to give you the ability to automatically back up your stations. You don't have to touch it. It just goes to the cloud, and it's there when you need it. Now, what we're going to use Recover for is to solve another one of those problems that perhaps we've created by virtue of this 90-day release cadence. So if we're producing a new version of Niagara at scale and doing it as such, you all need the ability to be able to pull these updates down in this kind of the same fashion as you do with a browser, for example. And so with Niagara Remote, we're going to use this as the primary service to be able to enable those remote updates, such that when we produce a U3, U4, U5, you can just pick that up in the same way that you do today with your browser. And there's more things that are in store for Niagara Recover as well, because that ability to be able to recover when you're experiencing disaster. You've had a supervisor that's gone down, let's say, because you had a condenser water pipe that burst on a floor and it's leaking through the network closet. Server's down, I didn't back it up. What do I do? Well, if you're just using Recover today, you can go pull the backup and then, of course, restore that station. But what about the idea where you actually have the opportunity to get that installed just with a couple clicks? That type of kind of instant restoration is what we want to deliver within the product and in the years ahead. Now, we know that's quite the undertaking, just given all the edge cases, but given the environment that we're facing, given the market landscape, it's never been more important than it is today for us to provide those capabilities. And so when you think about what we're doing with the cloud, we are augmenting, extending the capabilities of the core and into the cloud, where it makes sense, though. We're not just going to move everything, because I think, Jeannie brought it up. What happens when that cloud connection goes down? Well, presumably you have the right distributed control within that network architecture such that there's no issue to the actual operation of the building when that cloud connection goes down. And so this type of resiliency, I think, is going to be that much more important in the days ahead. So from a Niagara data service perspective, this one's exciting. And the reason why is because everybody wants an API. Hey, can you give me an API so I can integrate this data with my cloud application? So thankfully, we already have that integration in place with Code. But this is a great opportunity for Code and others to migrate to our more efficient, improved, streamlined, and much more capable Niagara Cloud Suite service. And the data service in particular is going to give you the ability to automatically export your model, which is your tags and relations, your histories, your alarms, live values, and export that all to the cloud without you knowing about it. And then it can be retrieved by any application out there just through a simple API call. So of course, security is baked into what we do. So those are authenticated API calls, of course. But we've given more, too, because we've provided the capability to write back to the site. So if you have that analytics application, it's sitting in the cloud, it's harnessing semantically enriched data so that it can actually provide the right corrective output to that site. That's exactly what data service enables. And we talk about this age of artificial intelligence. How do we get there? Again, you have to have the data. And so ensuring that you have the contextualized data, you can access it when you need it, and you won't impact the station either. Because think about that. If you have an application that's wanting to say, let me look at 2 years of the chilled water supply temperature from this chiller, and let me also look at the positions of the valves on every one of the air handling units. If you queried a station for that, you guys know exactly what type of hit it would take. You might see engine watchdog timeout. You might see it just pull to a crawl. But that's why we pushed it to the cloud. You saw the architecture that Jeannie presented. You had the control elements down at the bottom, and in the middle, you had databases Again, that's where it makes sense to push this stuff into the cloud. And so with Niagara Data Service, we've provided that capability to do it. And if you've ever had the opportunity to push something to the cloud using MQTT, you've quickly realized that formatting a JSON schema is a little bit more difficult. It usually involves a lot of trial and error, and it's not scalable. We've taken all that guesswork, all of that labor out of the picture so that you can get it where you need to get it and do it at scale. And so with the cloud, we're viewing this as one of these primary kind of drivers to getting us to this real age of autonomous buildings. Because again, it has to start with the data and has to be really in a reliable, scalable way. But of course, we're not just focusing on the Niagara Cloud, because we're also thinking about and working on the next generation of the Niagara framework. So at the summit, we introduced that we are working on Niagara 5. It's something that's been a long time in the making. Niagara 4 was introduced in about 2016. So we're here 8 years later. Now you might ask, why are you doing this? Why are you disrupting what we're doing? Well, we're disrupting for a couple reasons. Of course, one of them is security, because Niagara 4 uses Java 8. And Java 8 is going to be end of life here within a few years. We do not want you all to have an end of life product. We don't want you to have an IT department that says, hey, Java 8's end of life. Why are you recommending a product that has so many vulnerabilities? That's not something, again, we can compromise on. We cannot do that. And so we'll be migrating to Java 21 with Niagara 5. And so that work is currently underway. But because we have this opportunity to bring this new version of the Niagara framework to the market, this is a great chance for each and every one of you to shape the direction. So I offered this up at the summit. And the reason why is because, of course, that gave us a great opportunity to get in touch with as many people as possible. But if you weren't at the summit and you want to help shape the direction, you want to serve as an early access or a beta participant as we roll out Niagara 5, please scan that QR code. It's just a quick Microsoft form, just ask you for your email, your contact information. And the whole point behind that is what we'll do is we'll segment you by kind of persona. So if you're you're a building owner, you're a business owner, you're a system integrator, we're going to segment you into each of your own little groups so that we can provide this opportunity to get your feedback in a consistent manner. And of course, the segmentation of personas is to ensure that we can keep the context focused and ensure also with the system integrators, because we know you guys are the ones that are trying it out anyways. I think if we offered a beta version of Niagara 5 to a building owner, they'd say, what is beta? Probably. So it's going to be you guys that are going to be driving that. So here's a couple things that you can expect with Niagara 5. But one thing in particular that we've seen is that there's a demonstrable need to reduce, right, the labor that you typically would spend towards completing an integration job. And so that's top of mind for us. Now, how are we focused on delivering that? We've got an opportunity to take some of the complexities that are within Workbench and kind of boil them down a little bit. Now, when I say boil them down, provide the opportunity for what is kind of a basic Workbench mode. Now, the Workbench mode or Workbench that you currently experience or enjoy today would represent the advanced Workbench. This basic one would reduce, or remove rather, some of the parameters that people like to tinker with, but they don't understand exactly what they do. It'll remove them from the picture. And the whole idea behind that is to, well, it's reduce the cognitive overload. When you guys are looking at a property sheet and you see like 35 parameters in a backnet network, you're like, what the hell is this? Especially if you're new. So if you're green and you haven't had a bunch of years behind your belt, or on your belt rather, this, again, is one thing that really adds up at the end of the day and really impacts your bottom line if you're a system integrator, because you've got that new person that's just spinning their wheels. And as we take Niagara across the globe, one thing that we've realized is that people really want a plug and play experience. Now, how do we do that? Of course, some of that's going to be through limiting some of the capabilities from a profile standpoint, so rest assured we're not taking away your Workbench. But again, it's going to be similar to like what you do with like in Microsoft. You do an advanced search and a basic search. There's some of us that prefer the advanced one. There's some of us that are fine with just the basic one. And I think that's one thing that we'll see going forward. Now, on top of that, we need the ability to be able to give you, in that green SI, the capability to quickly, let's say, deploy a sequence of operations. So say you have an air handling unit, a variable air volume unit with chilled water coil, and the specification is in conformance with guideline 36 for that high-performing sequence of operations. I think you all can appreciate how difficult it is, depending on the complexity of that actual air handling unit, just how difficult it is to actually implement that sequence per spec. And then once you get the commissioning agent behind you, you better hope that they don't spend too much time digging into that, because that's really where it can get difficult. So what we've done is we're working with ASHRAE, we're working with Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory to support the standard 231P. Now that's the control descriptor language. Now what they're doing is they're defining sequences of operation in like a code. So you heard Bill talk about GitHub. They are currently packaging up these sequences of operations as code within GitHub. And then what we're going to be able to do is pull these down as they are routinely updated and represent them as templates within the Niagara framework. And what will be included therein is you'll have your tags, you'll have your relations, you'll have your history extensions, your alarm extensions, you'll have all of the right parameters selected, even your control loops, folks, which we know is some of the most difficult things to tune from time to time. And the whole idea behind that is to reduce the workload or labor required to be able to implement that. And it provides the assurity for that building owner that they actually got what they paid for. And then once we get to this whole age of artificial intelligence, what's going to be the one thing that's going to impact it? Well, it's the lack of homogenization when it comes to these sequences. Now again, when you get to tags and relations, you can get closer. But with these new builds or even retrofits, if we're making them actually in compliance with guideline 36 at the start, and they have the right tags and relations, you're achieving a couple outcomes. Because of course, at the heart of what guideline 36 does is it's all about reducing energy while ensuring occupant comfort. That's one thing that's going to be at the forefront. So you'll have that in place, but then also, because it's been implemented in a consistent way, you haven't had a certain parameter that's been tweaked, a machine learning algorithm can actually make corrective decisions that will actually be something that's beneficial for the site. Because let's face it, that's something that's going to impact the efficacy of any artificial intelligence in the days ahead. Now on top of that, we're also going to refresh some of our equipment imagery that you've been using within KIT PXN4 SVG. We're also going to be adding some new drivers as well. So again, Niagara 5, being able to speak with Niagara 4 stations, yes, that's critical, it's top of mind for us. The JACE 9000 will run Niagara 5, but the JACE 8000 will not. And the reason why is because we all remember, if you were here 9 years ago, when the JACE 8000 was released, the 3 and the 6 were also running Niagara 4. And we learned from that experience because we knew that the JACE 3 and the 6 didn't have really the right resources on board to be able to run it. So lessons learned. We said, you know what, okay, with Niagara 5, it's just going to be the JACE 9000. But again, you'll still be able to communicate with those N4 stations. So those are just a few things that we have in mind. Of course, the licensing is another really important item that we do want to talk through some of our partners, including yourselves. And that's why it's increasingly important that if you haven't signed up for this user group, please do, because I'm going to close this tomorrow. So if you come out next week and say, I wanted to do that, just keep in mind that this is going to close tomorrow. So as we wrap, you heard Andy say this, the power of partnership, the importance of enablement. We believe at Tridium that it's through partnership, it's through collaboration, that we're able to achieve these goals towards energy reduction, carbon reduction, then also how you deliver a job, consistency, and of course, the profitability more importantly. We'd like to thank you again for your partnership, thank you for your time, and thank you for coming to ControlsCon.
Wait, don't go anywhere. So real quick, so Stephen, when you came to work at Tridium, I said, Stephen, you got to build this, you got to build that. And you looked at me and you said, Scott, I was a technician, and you don't understand. I'm going to make it work for the technicians first. And I want to say thank you to Stephen. I think he's done a fantastic job of that. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
Chief architect right here. So we can all appreciate all the little stuff that he's fixed that none of us even know about, frankly. If you guys had any idea what this man's done, seriously, we appreciate you. And Andy, welcome to the party. And if for anybody else who wants to, the guy can take a punch. So feel free if you got some built up Tridium stuff that you wanted to tell him. He's here for tonight, so today. But yeah, it's welcome to the crew, and we're glad to have you. And we're looking forward to more great years with you guys. So thank you, Tridium, so much. So
thanks, Scott.
Well done.
Appreciate it.
All right. Okay, so we're ending the general session for this morning. I think that I'm gonna ask all the speakers to come back up if you don't mind for one last quick applause, and we're gonna do a photo. So if all the speakers would come up for a minute. And while they're walking up, let me just give you a little preview of what's next. So we're going to lunch next. The lunch is right out those doors, so just go grab your food and come back in here. After lunch at 1 o'clock, we're gonna start our breakout sessions. We have 2 breakout sessions. The first one is the technology track, which is hosted by our very own Mike Mitchell, CTO of Cochrane Supply, James Johnson and the Tridium team. This is gonna be a technical session. They're gonna dive into some of the really neat tech that they're working with, and then they're gonna show you some really cool ways to be more efficient in programming, get into some of the neat features, and then at the end, Cochrane, by the way, this conference, we've been doing it for about 20 years, and this is one of the most popular segments we do every year. It's called Stump the Chump. So that's where all of you technicians get some of the smart tech guys up there, and let's see you stump them, right? So that's in here. That's after lunch, starting at 1 o'clock. In the business track, so for those of you who don't program jobs, pretty much, those of you'll want to be in the business track. And the business track is in, oh shoot, I didn't write it. The Mandalay room, which is basically you walk out and you'll see a sign, just kind of walk out here to the right and just keep walking and you'll see it. And again, that starts at 1 o'clock. Now, don't miss that. We have, can you grab it? This is really exciting. This is our very first, something about coming to Texas, we got excited and we wanted to make it fun. And you got all the playoffs going on with hockey and basketball. I mean, geez, could it be a better place to be than Dallas during that time, right, with these teams? But anyways, we decided to build our own little competition. We call this the Controls Con Controller Cup. So in the business track, we're gonna be going through a lot of really neat concepts for you guys. We're gonna hopefully inform you with a lot of things to help you sell, engineer, do your jobs better. But then at the end, our own Gus Botter, he's gonna be right there. He's gonna be hosting the Controller Cup. So we have 5 of our automation vendors. They're bringing their very best product and they're gonna pitch it to you. We're gonna have a voting app up and you all are gonna decide who the winner is. And we'll find out tonight who the winner of the Controller Cup is. So you won't have to wait. So that's at 4 o'clock. That's in the business track. Like I said, if you're more of a technician, you want to be in here. Everybody else, you're welcome to come to the business track. And then we go to dinner after that. So dinner will be back here, by the way. So everything's kind of right here. So it's easy to find. And we have an exciting dinner and awards for you guys later tonight. So with that, I just want to thank again my keynotes. Well done. Thank you all for sticking around. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you after lunch. Thank you.